Hey everyone, Poindexter here. And in this video, we'll be flying our second patrol in skies above Britain. Before we begin the mission, we must, of course, start by pointing out some errors made in the last mission. First, there was the matter of not burning fuel when we attempted contact in an adjacent sector, as is noted on the display. Fortunately, this did not affect the outcome, as we still had fuel remaining at the end of the mission. The second error, and this one was more significant, was the fact that I failed to follow through with Red Section's second attack on the flanks of the bomber formation. I completely skipped over their part in the battle, most likely denying them an easy kill and a victory point. To the pilots of Red Section, I sincerely apologize for this lapse in judgment. The last error was Green Leader's attack on the first attack run. The card drawn showed disruption, and for this we needed 5 markers for disruption to occur. I mistakenly counted the lost contact marker as the 5th marker, but this marker is not a legitimate one to use when counting the number of markers present. Only damage markers and fighters are counted. With only 4 legitimate markers present, the bomber tile should not have been isolated. A big thank you to all of you in the comments who pointed out these errors. With those corrections out of the way, let's get started. First, we'll roll on the Channel War Random Events chart in the optional rules. We roll a 4, Night Duty. Referring to the manual, Night Duty means one of our pilots has been chosen to fly a night patrol. We choose a pilot to fly this mission, but not a green one. We'll choose Kane, leader of Yellow Section on the last mission, to fly this patrol. We credit him with another mission flown, and roll for landing success. Anything higher than a 1 will result in a successful return. We roll an 11, and Kane returns safely. However, we won't be flying him on the next sortie, because if we did, he would automatically be exhausted, which would mean a trip to the hospital for recovery. Kane has now flown his second patrol, which means he would be fatigued anyway. So we'll place him in the fatigued box and allow him to rest. Now we place the vector markers on the board according to the diagram. And we roll for the squadron's starting position. And it's an 11, the coast zone. The fuel icons indicate that our squadron has been on patrol for some time, so we move the fuel cubes 3 fuel spaces on the track to indicate this. And we place the squadron marker here. Next, we'll roll for starting visibility. And it's a 7, clear and sunny. Rolling a 4 places the sun in the port position. Now, let's choose our pilots for this patrol. We'll keep Red Section intact, with Mengel flying the lead, and pilots Pancaldi and Ashton flying his wing. In Yellow Section, we'll move Douglas to the lead position and bring in 2 of our reserve pilots, Bailey and Upton, to fly as wingmen. In Green Section, we'll let Nelson sit this one out and bring in our other veteran pilot, Richards, to fly the lead. We'll leave the wingmen as they are. And with Blue Section, we'll let veteran Tucker sit this one out and bring in another reserve pilot, Graham, to lead the section. We'll leave the wingmen as they are now. Now, let's begin our second patrol. We begin by revealing vector markers in the rightmost space on the raid track. The first tile is turn point and raid. In a repeat of the first patrol, we first roll for the sun's new position, and an even number 10 moves the sun clockwise to the nose position. Next is raid. We place the raid marker on the board, since it's currently not there, and, since the skies are clear, we roll for the escort placement. A roll of 11 places a single 109 escort marker in the lead station. This vector marker is complete, and we reveal the next tile underneath. Once again, it's another turn point, and we have new trade. We roll for the sun's position, and an odd number moves the sun back to the port position. With new trade, we'll isolate the rearmost bomber tile, but first we'll roll to see what type of bomber we'll encounter. It's a 1, which means Stukas. Another roll of 9 shows that 6 bomber tiles will be flying in this formation. Per the new trade icon, we isolate one of the rear bomber tiles. The last of the vector tiles in this space have been revealed, which ends the reveal phase. Next is the fuel phase. We move the fuel cubes one space and begin the contact phase. We have a decision to make. We can attempt contact now and attempt an intercept with the bombers still carrying their bombs. However, we'll be intercepting over the channel. If any of our fighters take critical damage, there's a good chance that they may have to bail out over water, which also means their chances of survival is poor. But if we delay contact and allow the raid to move inland, the Stukas will very likely drop their bombs and make the turn for home. When that happens, the only way to score any points will be to shoot down the bombers. We'll risk the pilots and attempt contact now. Since we're in the same zone as the raid, we roll a die and compare the number on the in same zone chart. It's a 7, flank low. But we'll spend another fuel to move to the flank high position, which puts us in the sun. We've got a light 109 escort in the lead station. Looking at the intercept bomber chart, we see that since our formation is at high altitude, we only need to roll a 4 to successfully intercept the Stukas. Once again, we'll send the entire squadron in with a flank attack from out of the sun. With a number that low, there's no need to roll 2 dice to ensure the out of the sun advantage. Instead, we'll choose to ignore any hit results in the first round. We roll for the intercept result, and we succeed with a 6. We remove the squadron marker and place our fighters in the bomber formation area on the port flank. We're going to send 2 fighters apiece against individual Stuka tiles, like this. This should guarantee some isolated tiles, and we may even destroy a few bombers in the process. Stukas are light bombers, which take only 3 hits to destroy. Even 1 hit to the engine will bring it down. So, we'll be drawing from the light bomber card deck for the combat results. Let's begin at the front, with red section and yellow leader. Red leader will go first. Mengele potentially takes a hit from return fire, and we have a disruption value of 8. We'll take a moment to explain in more detail exactly what that means. A disruption value of 8 means that there needs to be 8 markers present on all tiles that are still attached to one another. The only markers that should be counted are RAF fighters and damage markers. In this instance, these 5 bomber tiles are still attached to one another, in other words, still in formation. So, we count the number of eligible markers on these tiles to determine if there are at least 8 of them. All 12 of our fighters are counted since they are on these tiles. So the disruption takes effect, and the bomber tile is separated from the main formation. Now we draw a marker for the return fire. And a hit marker is drawn, but since we chose to ignore all hits in the first round of bomber combat thanks to our Out of the Sun attack, we ignore the hit. Next is red 2. The distress effect does not happen since there are only 4 markers on the bomber tile, and we draw a hit marker since red 2 is flown by a green pilot. Ashton doesn't take a hit, but has now lost contact and is removed from the bomber formation area. Next is red 3, flown by pilot Pancaldi. He successfully knocks his Stuka out of formation. There are 3 Spitfires on the tile, which matches the distress number. The dorsal gunner is hit, and Pancaldi is low ammo. Yellow leader, following red 3, targets the wounded Stuka, but only manages to take some return fire. But the marker is mechanical failure. Yellow leader is having some trouble with his Spitfire, so we roll a die for the outcome. An even number means the Spitfire is lost contact and is removed from the bomber formation area, while an odd number means he must return to base. And it's an even number, and yellow leader is lost contact. Next are pairs of Spitfires from yellow and green section. We'll start with yellow 2. Upton is low ammo, and his attack did not disrupt the formation, as there are only 8 eligible markers present on all connected bomber tiles. Not enough for the 13 needed on the card. Next is yellow 3. And green pilot Wilcox has better success. He scores damage on the Stuka, which takes a wing hit, and he successfully knocks the bomber tile out of formation with disruption. Green leader is next. He successfully knocks his Stuka out of formation with distress, scores a damage hit, which strikes the bomber in the cockpit, destroying the bomber instantly, and giving green leader Graham his first kill. He is also low on ammo. Unfortunately, green 3 is robbed of his chance at a victory, but we still draw a card for his attack. And his guns are jammed. We move to blue section and green 2's attack. We'll start with green 2 and ace pilot Lloyd. But his attack is ineffective, as the green pilot hit icon does not apply to Lloyd, and there are not enough markers present to disrupt this bomber tile. Blue leader attacks next, and has a bit better success, scoring damage on the Stuka and a potentially catastrophic hit on the wing. But we roll a 3, no catastrophic damage. Lloyd is now low ammo, and he too is unsuccessful in disrupting the bomber tile, as there are only 5 eligible markers present. Green pilot Fenton in blue 2 attacks next, and takes a hit from somewhere in the formation, since the green pilot hit icon does apply to him. We do draw a hit marker, but it is ignored this round due to our Out of the Sun attack. Unfortunately, he too fails to disrupt the bomber tile, as not enough markers are present to trigger it. Last is Oliver in blue 3. We draw a return fire marker, but it does not apply, as Oliver is a regular pilot. The disruption does not take effect, since there are not enough markers present. All Spitfires have attacked, and we proceed to the disengage phase, moving our fighters away in preparation for another round of combat. There's no need for hit checks since we ignored all hits in the first round, so we end with the resume phase and continue the interception sequence. We managed to disrupt the formation somewhat, but we still have bombers in formation. So we'll send a few Spitfires on an immediate flank attack against these bombers, and send the rest on tail attacks targeting these Stukas. The Spitfires attacking from the tail will incur a 1-round delay, as they take time to maneuver into position. But with such a small 109 escort lurking in the lead station, we'll take our chances that a counterattack from the escorts may not happen. Since our flank attackers have no delay penalty, we begin the second round of bomber combat with them. First, it's Green Leader Veteran Richards. He damages the dorsal gunner, is now out of ammo, and finally knocks this tile out of formation, since the number of eligible markers is now equal to the disruption number. Next is Green 3. He successfully causes his Stuka to fall out of formation with distress. He is low ammo, and we draw a return fire marker, which sends Green 3 to the lost contact area. Now it's Green 2's turn. He damages the Stuka with a wing hit and is now low ammo. We move to the rear of the formation and Blue sections attack, starting with Blue Leader. He scores a damage hit on the Stuka's engine, which causes it to fall out of formation. Regardless, the engine hit is all that is needed to destroy the Stuka, and giving Pilot Graham his second kill. He is also out of ammo, and the bomber tile remains attached as the disruption does not take effect. We continue drawing combat cards with Blue 2 up next. Disruption does not take effect, but Blue 2 receives return fire, taking a hit to the engine. Finally, we end with Blue 3. He also fails to disrupt the bombers and takes return fire, and is struck in the cockpit. We proceed to the disengage phase and move the Spitfires that attacked from the flank to the side. The Spitfires with delay markers remain in play. Next is the hit check, and we begin with Blue 2. And the hit is trivial on a roll of 12. Next is Blue 3, and barely makes it on a roll of 8, another trivial hit. We end with the resume phase and head back to the interception sequence. Now the escorts get their chance to react, and we draw an escort reaction card. And they fail to do so. The escorts are in the lead station. The card shows that no action is taken by any escorts in this station, so we are free to continue mauling the vulnerable Stukas without interference. Next is the chase segment of the entropy phase. We have 3 Spitfires in the lost contact area that are capable of giving chase: Red 2, Yellow Leader, and Green 3. There are 3 things that can be done in the chase phase: chase the bomber formation in an attempt to attack them, return to base, or reform. Since these 3 fighters still have ammo, we won't send them back to base just yet. We could reform these individual fighters into their own section, known as an ad hoc section, since all 3 of these Spitfires come from different sections. However, we would need to have a veteran pilot to do this, since he is needed to lead the section. We do not in this instance, so we cannot reform. Our only option then is to attempt a chase. To do this, we simply refer to this simple chart and roll a die, or dice, to see if the chase succeeds. Since we cannot form these fighters into a section, we'll have to roll for each Spitfire separately. Attempting chase using 1 fighter at a time means we must roll 2 dice and then choose the lower number. We'll start with Ashton in Red 2. And it's a 7 and a 2. 2 is the lower number, so we refer to the chase table. We have a light escort present in the lead section, so we refer to this row here. Visibility is clear, so we use this column. The red number is what we would need to roll for success, a 6 in this case. If the number rolled falls into the range of the green numbers here, not only did the chase attempt fail, the Spitfire has also been jumped by German escorts. We draw a Luftwaffe advantage card and apply it to red 2. Ashton is attacked head-on by a pair of 109s. We draw a head-on card for the result, and the pair of 109s vanish, but we roll for a possible collision. And it's a 10, no collision. The Germans flash past Ashton without causing any damage, and the dogfight is over. Now it's Douglas and yellow 3's turn to attempt chase. We roll 2 dice, and it's a 4 and 9. The 9 is discarded since we take the lowest number rolled. A 4 means the chase attempt did not succeed, but it is high enough that the German fighters do not react. Finally, we'll roll for Wilcox in green 3, and it's a 4 and 2. The 4 is ignored, but the 2 means Wilcox is bounced by enemy fighters. A pair of 109s now tail Wilcox's Spitfire. Wilcox will attempt an evade maneuver. Attempting this, we draw 2 tailing dogfight cards instead of 1, and select one. Unfortunately, one card is not better than the other, as both have the exact results. The 109s vanish, but not before scoring a hit on green 3. And Wilcox takes a serious hit to his wing. The dogfight is over, and we roll for the hit check. It's a 6, less than the number on the marker, and Wilcox is sent to the fate box. We place his Spitfire in the wing section of the fate box. His ultimate fate will be determined at the end of the patrol. Red 2 and yellow leader remain lost contact. We proceed to the patrol complete phase and move fuel cubes 1 space to the right. We ignore the next 4 segments: escort recovery, escort exit, channel patrol, and reform, as none of these are used at the moment. Remember, we cannot attempt reform since there is no veteran pilot in the lost contact area. So, we return to the raid vector sequence. We begin by moving the raid marker 1 space to the left, and we begin revealing vector tiles in this new space. The top icon is Weather, and the bottom Messerschmitts. The Weather icon means that visibility has changed to haze, so we move the visibility marker to the haze position. The sun is still present, however. Next is Messerschmitts. This means one of our fighters has been jumped by 109s. Randomly selecting a pilot, Blue 3 will have to dogfight these bandits, and is attacked by a pair of 109s head-on. The event text on the right side does not apply, since this attack is not from an escort station. We draw a head-on card, and the 109s vanish, but also score a hit on the Spitfire. A green pilot hit marker is drawn, but Oliver is a regular pilot, so the hit has no effect, and Blue 3 escapes unscathed. We return to the raid vector sequence and reveal the next tile, and it's a straggler. A lone bomber is placed in the lost contact area. Since the bomber type has already been determined, we place 1 Stuka here. Since we have 2 fighters in the lost contact space, we'll send both of them after this juicy target. In this instance, bomber rounds are played without interruption, so we'll move our 2 fighters to the tail position and start the first bomber round. Normally, when attacking from the tail position in the first round, if one of our fighters were hit by return fire, we would draw 2 hit markers and apply the higher number. But the Stuka is a light bomber, and we are flying at low altitude, so this will be ignored. First up is Yellow Leader, but fails to hit anything. He is now low ammo, and the green pilot hit marker is ignored, since yellow leader is a regular pilot. Next is green pilot Ashton in red 2, and has much better luck, scoring 2 damage hits on the Stuka, with 2 wing hits. Ashton is also low ammo. There is no need for hit checks since neither Spitfire suffered a hit, and since we attacked from the tail position in round 1, we can remain in this position at the start of round 2. This is unique to all attacks made from the tail position. So, we start drawing bomber cards once again. Since yellow leader is flown by pilot Douglas, and since Douglas already has 1 victory, we'll let him go first in the hopes that he can get another kill and take that next step towards ace status. And Douglas is denied once again. He hits nothing, and is now out of ammo. The green pilot hit icon is ignored, and we draw a chit for return fire. And Douglas's Spitfire takes a serious hit to the elevator. It's up to Ashton in red 2 to destroy this Stuka, and manages to do so with a single damage icon, striking the cockpit. Ashton is now out of ammo, and we draw a return fire marker. But the lost contact marker is ignored, since red 2 is already lost contact. The Stuka, with 3 damage markers and a cockpit hit to boot, is destroyed, and Ashton receives his first kill. Now we roll a die for the damage to Douglas's Spitfire, and it's a 2, less than the number on the chit, and Douglas is sent to the elevator fate box. Red 2 also decides to return to base. We continue with the raid vector sequence, and its new trade and flak. The new trade isolates the last connected bomber tile, which just so happens to be at the rear of the formation, exactly what the new trade description states. The flak, however, is more serious. We draw 2 hit markers for the bombers in the bomber formation area, and 2 Stukas take wing hits, with 1 possibly being a catastrophic hit. We roll for the result, and it's a 9, not enough to destroy the bomber. But it's not over yet. Since we also have Spitfires in the bomber formation area, we draw 2 random hit markers for them as well, as they are victims of friendly fire. We randomly choose which fighters take the hits, and yellows 2 and 3 are struck. We roll for the fate of these 2 fighters. Yellow 2's hit is trivial, but yellow 3 isn't as lucky, and is sent to the fuselage fate box. We reveal the last raid vector tile, and the raid finally bombs their target. We remove the remaining vector tiles and move the raid marker to the turn space. We also randomly place outbound vector markers on the map, and we roll for the new sun position. And an even number moves the sun from port to starboard. The raid vector sequence has ended, and we proceed to the fuel phase, moving the fuel cubes 1 more space to the right. We're getting pretty low on fuel, so this will most likely be our last attack run. We've already made contact, so we move to the interception sequence and proceed directly to the entropy phase, and begin round 3 in the bomber formation area. We begin the approach phase, and this is our current situation. Blue and green leader are out of ammo, so we'll send them back to base and place them on the RTB track under their fuel cubes. Green 2, Blue 2, and Blue 3 will be sent on 1 more attack run from the flank. We'll send Blue 2 after this Stuka, and Blue 3 and Green 2 after this one. We remove the delay markers from the Spitfires that have them, and we begin the burst phase. We'll start with the Spitfires approaching from the tail position first. Pancaldi in red 3 attacks first. He scores damage on the Stuka and hits the engine, Pancaldi is now out of ammo. We ignore the return fire marker since the dorsal gunner has been knocked out. The hit to the engine destroys the Stuka, and Pancaldi gets his first confirmed kill. Next is veteran pilot Mengel, flying as Red Leader. He scores 2 damage on the Stuka, the first damage being a wing hit. We roll for the catastrophic damage, and it's a 7, and the catastrophic damage does not take effect. The second damage is another wing hit, and Mengel is now low on ammo. Upton in Yellow 2 is up next, but misses the Stuka. He runs out of ammo, and the green pilot hit icon is ignored, since Upton is a regular pilot. Now we'll work with our Spitfires attacking from the flank, starting with Lloyd in green 2. He strikes the dorsal gunner again, which is counted as a fuselage hit, and Lloyd is out of ammo. But his third hit on the Stuka destroys it, and Lloyd chalks up another victory. It was hoped that Red Leader and Yellow 2 would destroy their Stuka, thereby giving Blue 2 and 3 a better chance of destroying this Stuka, as it would now be all alone. But that isn't the case. Let's hope for a few lucky hits. Green pilot Fenton, with 1 kill to his credit, attacks first. He knocks out the dorsal gunner, is now low ammo, and successfully knocks the Stuka out of formation, as there are more than 4 eligible markers on the bomber tile. This puts Oliver, flying Blue 3, in a much better position. He strikes the dorsal gunner again, which is counted as a fuselage hit, and is now low ammo. Not enough hits, unfortunately, to bring the Stuka down. With the burst phase complete, we proceed to disengage and move the Spitfires off to the side. We could lead Red Leader and Yellow 2 in the tail position, but since they are low on fuel and nearly out of ammo, we'll move them to the side as well. There are no hit checks to be made, so we resume the entropy phase and the escort reaction segment. Once again, the escorts in the lead station fail to react. However, there is an ambush indicator on the card, which means one of our Spitfires is jumped by enemy 109s. We randomly choose one of the Spitfires in the bomber formation area, since there are no fighters or sections in the lost contact area, and veteran pilot Mengel is forced to dogfight the 109s. Mengel is bounced by a swarm of 109s who are now tailing him. The event text on the right is ignored since it does not apply to a single fighter. Mengel will attempt a turn maneuver. And the maneuver works. Mengel turns tight into the 109s, and they vanish without causing any damage. We're now at the chase segment. All independent RAF fighters may return to base, and that is what we will do. All the Spitfires in the bomber formation area break off and return home. With that, our patrol is complete. Now we must check the fates of our 3 pilots sent to the fate box. First is Bailey, who took a hit to the fuselage. We roll a die and compare the number to those in the Spitfire column. It's an 11, a hanger result. This means that, despite the damage, Bailey managed to land his Spitfire safely. Well done. Next is Green pilot Wilcox, who took a serious hit to his wing. Notice the channel marker placed on his Spitfire, which I placed as a reminder that Wilcox was sent to the fate box while in the first space of the raid track. Notice the bailout icon here. This means that if Wilcox was forced to bail out or crashes, he will have done so over the channel. If that is the case, his chances of being rescued are not good. We roll a 7, and Wilcox crash lands his aircraft. We roll again for the result of the crash, using the red numbers since Wilcox is a green pilot, and it's a 10, and Wilcox is wounded in the crash. Since Wilcox crash-landed in the first base of the raid track, that means he ditched in the English Channel. Now we must roll for channel recovery, and, as you can see by the numbers, his chances of survival are not good. We roll and use the numbers in the green pilot row. And it's a 7, which means Wilcox did not survive. This is the risk you take when attempting an intercept over the channel, as any pilot sent to the fate box has little chance of making it back to the squadron. Finally, it's Pilot Douglas, who took a hit to the elevator. And a 5 means his Spitfire crashes as well, but fortunately manages to bail out before the crash. Douglas survives, but will be unable to fly the next patrol as he makes his way back to base. All of our pilot fates have been accounted for, and we mark the pilots who flew on this patrol. All Spitfires that were lost on this patrol are replaced, and we're ready for the next mission. Finally, we tally up the victory points. We destroyed 5 Stukas, 4 in the bomber formation area, and 1 straggler. We isolated 4 Stuka tiles before they dropped their bombs. And we had 1 pilot bail out, 1 land safely, and 1 killed when he ditched in the channel. Overall, we scored 9 victory points, which is a good outcome. We come to the end of our second patrol, and a lot of action took place today. We once again intercepted and broke up a bomber formation before they bombed, but intercepting over the channel cost us another pilot when he was forced to ditch. We were lucky that the Germans sent such a flimsy escort with the Stukas, and moreover, they were flying in a station that kept them from being as effective as they could have been. This allowed our squadron to rack up more kills practically unmolested, though a handful of 109s did spoil some of our plans. Overall, it was a good day, but we still need to be mindful of pilot losses. Losing 1 pilot every patrol could eventually become an issue, as we struggle to keep our squadron at full fighting capacity. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next patrol.